evening, everyone, and welcome. How wonderful to see you all here live. Let's start with the host of this evening. It's my pleasure to introduce the CEO of Mediafin, Peter Quagebuur.
You know it's not the same as it was in this world. It's just us. You know it's not the same.
Good evening. Glad to see you all back in person after having stared at our screens for the last 2 years. And look where we are now. We find ourselves living in a polycrisis. Indeed, a polycrisis leads to poly-opportunities and maybe even poly-innovation. Let's look at one opportunity we created ourselves. Last year, we launched our YACA project with l'ECO, Oser voir grand, Dare to Dream. This is a long-term project targeting scale-ups in the French-speaking part of Belgium. We help them develop their business by inspiring them, by letting them learn from their peers and from CEOs who have already made this journey. That is our mission at the Tate & Leko. We help entrepreneurs grow through information, inspiration, and new insights. Before we give the floor to Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, I am honored to ask the Belgian Prime Minister Alexander De Croo to come up on stage together with Johan Thijs, CEO of KBC, for an introductory debate on the challenges Europe is having to cope with. Isabel Albers will moderate this debate. Isabel, please, the floor is yours.
If I only could make a deal with God, and I'd get him to swap our places, be running up that road, be running up that hill, be running up that building.
Thank you, Astrid. Welcome, Prime Minister. Welcome, Mr. Johan Thijs. Look at where we are now. Now Europe is fully committed in that war. Even Germany has agreed upon those Leopard 2 battle tanks. Could you have imagined that?
No, I did not imagine it. And of course, you're always smarter the day after than the day before. The main learning for me is that things change incredibly fast. And the strength and the resilience of the European economy, the European society, is actually much, much stronger than anyone would have imagined.
Okay. Mr. Johan Thijs, how did you, as a banker, as a captain of industry, how did you live that conflict and what are the consequences?
Well, yeah, you know, the first reaction is the obvious one. It's, oh my goodness, we have a war.
All of us did.
On the European continent, and let's face it, we have a war with a superpower which has nuclear possibilities, and that makes it completely different on the business domain. It's creating, for sure, a lot of uncertainty, it's creating super volatility, but the fear in the early days that we were going to go into a deep recession, knock on wood, is a bit more remote than it was 6 months ago.
A bit of optimism in an ocean of pessimism?
I mean, as a banker, we are paid to be cautious, you know?
Thank you for those inspiring thoughts. And yes, now it's time to present the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen.
Freude schöner Götterfunken, Tochter aus Himmel sie wohnt. Alle Menschen werden Brüder vor deinen sanften Flügel weilt.
Thank you very much. Belgium has a very special place in my heart. I was born here, so many, many wonderful childhood memories. But of course, Belgium also has a very special place in Europe. Today, the next big innovation is taking shape in the North Sea, round about 45 kilometers off the Belgian coast. The world's first energy island. So the North Sea is rapidly becoming Europe's clean and affordable power station. Not only will it help us to get rid of Russian fossil fuels, Homegrown renewables will also power the world's next industrial revolution, made right here in Belgium and made in Europe. And this is what I would like to speak about today. The next decades will see the greatest industrial transformation of our times. Today, clean tech is the fastest growing investment sector in Europe, doubling its value in 2021 alone. I think a clean tech race is in full swing. This can be only good news for our planet. But it is, of course, a lot of pressure on our own clean transition. And will imperil our own clean transition if the level playing field is not given. We need a global level playing field, and we need a European level playing field for our economy. So we must get better at nurturing our own industry. That is necessary for the clean transition. And it is to achieve this goal that I have announced that we need a Green Deal industrial plan for Europe. It is our plan for Europe to secure our place as the home of industrial innovation and clean tech. The label, Made in Europe, represents quality. Made in Europe, this is also a statement about who we are. A diverse continent, full of creativity, a continent where entrepreneurs can thrive and no one is left behind. When it comes to accessing one single prosperous market of 450 million consumers, there is no better place than Europe. And therefore, long live Europe. Thank you very much.
So far, ladies and gentlemen, we have been hearing various visions, predictions, and also foresights, but they were all coming from, yes, indeed, Europeans. Ladies and gentlemen, here's for you, Edward Loos.
Don't stop thinking about tomorrow. Don't stop, it'll soon be here. It'll be better than before. Yesterday's gone, yesterday's gone.
I've never been introduced by Fleetwood Mac before, but I like it. I wish my wife was here to hear that. I'm glad my daughter isn't here to hear that. One tiny quibble, I'm still European, we're just not members of the European Union. Now, of course, Britain's face, its nose is pressed up against the shop window of the European single market store, wondering why on earth it ever left the store. And so it's a very different and personally I think a rather tragic change of circumstances that in Britain we call Regrexit. But you'll be pleased to hear that in the next few minutes I'm not going to be talking about Brexit, and so that is my last mention of Brexit. I'm going to talk to you in the next few minutes about America's view of Europe. Let me make three observations, because I'm going to keep my eye on the clock. The first is just the incredible importance of what happened February 24th last year, almost a year now, in stimulating not just European but Western unity and cohesion. It is this creation of a sustained sense of Western European transatlantic unity. A downside to this, and inevitably is a downside, from an American perspective is a very familiar downside, is that most of the money is still coming from Washington. I appreciate the European Commission has really stepped up, but most of the financing and most of the weapons are still coming from across the Atlantic. There is still a strategic vacuum in Europe. It doesn't operate without American leadership. It keys very, very strongly into the second observation of three that I wanted to make, and that is that American support for Europe over Ukraine and American backing of Ukraine, I think to some degree is seen as a quid pro quo that Europe needs to support, in the American eye, the American point of view, the American challenge with China. I'm not sure Europe is so clear about this, and I'm not sure Europe has consensus. So I do think that that's a challenge, and it leads me to my third observation, which is about America and the global trade system. The United States is no longer a believer in the rules-based global trade system. On global economics, Joe Biden is Trump with a human face. America First economics is a bipartisan issue now. It's here to stay. And I think we have to get used to Trumpism with a human face, or indeed Trumpism with Trump's face, possibly. Again, I doubt that, but you can't rule anything out, as the way America is going to engage with the global economy, and that has consequences. But what I will say is, in setting out what are the challenges in terms of the future of America-US, America-EU relations, that if you find them sobering, you can always console yourselves by saying to yourselves, look, whatever the challenges we've got, at least we don't have Britain's problems. So think of it that way. And on that note, thank you so much for inviting me.
Now, enjoy the rest of your evening, and I wish you all good fortune for the coming year. It feels like we could use some. Godspeed.
Jerusalem bells are ringing, Roman Catholic choirs are singing. Be my mirror, my sword, my shield, missionaries in a foreign field. For some reason I can't explain, once you go, there was never an honest word. But there was when I